Hey, what's up, Impact Wrestling fans? It is BQ. This is the Cool Factor podcast brought to you by the Impact Lounge, and I've got my man TW in the place to be, just like we do each and every week. So we're going to just kind of jump right into this because, before we hit the record button, TW and I are having good conversation, laying out the show and everything, and we were having really good convo that I think let's just hit the record button. Let's be organic with it and let's keep talking. So I'm going to get into my first point here from the episode of Impact that we just watched. And that's what kind of sparked this discussion. So I'm going to get, my point across here, and then we're going to kind of just let it go. And it might rabbit trail a little bit.
Yeah. It's a good one, though. I think you guys are going to love it. Because it's topical and it's real. You know what I mean? And it's something everybody's interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I want to get into is that, well, first of all, I want to say to give props right off the top. I didn't get a chance to watch Turning Point yet. I know it's on the Impact Plus. I had the same problems, couldn't get on. I'm going to watch it this week. I'm really, really happy to see that there's a lot of continuity from the show. There was build up to the show. Last year, I had done this, I guess it was this year, early at the top of the year. I did a podcast about making the Impact Plus shows and the Twitch shows better. And a lot of those ideas I came up with, I'm seeing now. I'm not saying I'm responsible for it, but what did Tupac say once? I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee you I will spark the mind that changes the world. It is. I'm going to take a little bit of credit there, but
BQ Pac.
Yeah. So I want to say that I'm happy to see that there's continuity. Now, in the first match of the show, for Josh to say this past Saturday night on Turning Point on Impact Plus about 15 times. That's a little overselling it, but that's okay. I'm happy to see that. The episode of Impact, I liked top to bottom. I still feel like I'm getting a little bored sometimes because there's no audience, but I like the show. So this is the first thing that I want to talk about. I am very concerned about seeing Ethan Page on screen by himself this episode. We know that his contract is going to be up soon. And I feel like we've seen this before. Not exactly, but when we have guys that are maybe possibly on their way out of the company, or we don't know what their future is. I'm not saying he knows, Impact knows. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like they are laying some groundwork that is preparing for his departure. The North just finished with a real BS title run after having this long historic title run. Just a straight up BS run. Their second run is unmemorable. I don't even know if that's a word. Unmemorable as a tag team title run as you could possibly have. He gets on screen and he keeps talking about, I want a rematch. He there's a lot more I than us. He appeared to just be his own entity. He didn't feel like he was part of the North. I've got a really bad feeling about this, about where this is ultimately going to go if he leaves the company or whatever. My gut is that he's gone. I'm not saying I have any information on that. I don't even think he knows what he wants to do. My gut is that he's gone. And I think that would be a big mistake. If you look at his YouTube, he has a way of connecting that, he knows exactly how to do YouTube and to create content. He's the complete opposite of how Impact does YouTube. Right. I don't understand how he works for them and their company and their YouTube channel is the way that it is. I don't.
No, because they don't want to pay him to do the extra.
Yeah, exactly. I read something interesting today. This was in regard to the Rascalz. Tommy Dreamer was saying, and this was a positive coming out of his mouth, but he said, Impact's really good about letting people, I'm paraphrasing, very good about letting the stars seek out other opportunities when their contract's coming up to see what else is out there, what other opportunity. The problem I see with it, and again, I'm no expert in this field, but the problem I see with it is that there's two companies that they can't outbid. They probably could, but because they have a owner with deep pockets, but it doesn't mean that they should, right? Because they're not really monetizing their guys to make these right. huge contracts worth it. Like someone brought up one time, they should bring Brock Lesnar. I'm like, dude, they can't pay Brock Lesnar. I mean, right. I guess they could, but nothing right. they're going to do is going to make that money back.
Right.
The problem I have is that there's two companies that will outbid them for wrestlers. So, instead of saying, hey, here's our competitive offer, and sometimes in sports, like a small market team might not be able to sign a guy for what someone else can, but they find creative ways to make the contract work. And, like some players, your family can ride on a team plane. You know what I'm saying? But there's ways to put a competitive offer together. And I feel like that's what they should do, because you said, TW, like if they were going to, again, we don't know shit, but we're just saying, looking in as a fan, if they were going to keep Ethan Page, like they would have done something already to ensure that he was staying. But instead, no one knows what's going on. Right. So you can kind of continue what you were saying about the whole free agent thing with Impact.
Yeah. So if you guys have seen, I love Ethan Page's vlog. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. It's great content, so consistent. Today is Thursday. We're recording this, and he just dropped the vlog today, and he talked about the Impact tapings that happened as recently as yesterday. And in the vlog, I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it. He gives Josh Alexander a present, and he tells him, like, as he's presenting him the gift, that, this is kind of to commemorate our run here. And he says to the camera, he's like, look, honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. He's like, but, we've taped up a few weeks of TV, and I don't know what's going to happen next. He's like, I'm not saying that this is it. He said, I'm not saying, I don't know. He's like, I really don't know. And I thought that was just like really cool. It felt very real, felt very honest. And look, I said this a long time. I said this months ago. I thought he was gone. When he did the Slammiversary promo where he was telling Ken Shamrock, I'm going to do XYZ to you, and then it's time for the wrestling business to pay up. I was like, because Impact does not have a history of paying up. They don't pay people. And again, it's like BQ said. It's not like I think back to the Killer Cross situation, right? He was in a situation where he and Scarlett needed money. That's a good act, you know what I mean? And I thought they had a good argument for asking for more money, and I thought Impact had a good argument for saying, hey, you were invisible before we put you on TV, honor your contract. I thought they both had solid arguments, and whatever, they handled it how they handled it. But the thing is, if you're Impact, you don't have the infrastructure to monetize someone the way that a WWE or an AEW would. You just don't. They don't. For whatever reason, they believe that their audience, we talk about them not knowing their audience, who their target audience is. That may or may not be true, because they believe that the Good Brothers is who and what their target audience wants. And they let them hawk their merch as much as possible at every turn. If you see them on the screen, they're selling you something. And Don Callis, Scott D'Amore, they believe that, that the Good Brothers can sell this stuff right now. Nobody else does that, right? Nobody else is monetized in that way. And so if you're Impact, like you said, they can tell people, hey, look, go see what you can get, because we're only willing to pay you X. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll go up to X and a half. But if WWE is offering you Y and AEW is offering you Z, go get paid. And you know what? I don't blame them for that, because again, it's like, why would you break your bank to match what AEW is paying Allie? You know what I mean? Like if you and then if you're Allie, you go to AEW and you get less screen time, you're much less of an important character to the overall show, but I'm sure them checks are good. You know what I mean? I'm sure the checks are good. And I'm sure they arrive on time. You know, like, so it's we, you know, as people who are not in the business, we can't truly speak on what that life is. We only know by what we hear, you know, second, third hand. But I think that in the case of Ethan Page, you know, like I said, he told us that he has no idea what's going to happen. You know, this could be his last set of tapings. It could not be. You know, when he, you know, got himself in his best shape of his life, you know, I'm sure he changed the game. He changed the game on him. That made his asking price higher. You know, he's starting to, you know, show us this Karate Man gimmick, and he is kind of starting to present himself in more of a singles light. And you know, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. You know, through his vlogs, you know, we know he has a wife and a kid, and you know, look, ain't nobody gonna pay your bills but you. You know, so I don't blame him at all for wanting to get paid. And if there's offers out there, you gotta take them. You got to, like, you can't. You know, as a married man, I can tell you it'll be very tough if, you know, Impact is offering you X amount per appearance and AEW is offering you 6 figures guaranteed. That'll be a tough conversation to have with your wife. But I'm more over on this show. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that's really like a, you know, something you could look your family in the face and say. So, you know, I don't blame Ethan Page for going to get paid, and I don't, you know, I don't see Impact, you know, deciding they're going to pay him and strap the rocket to him. You know what I mean? It would be cool if they did. You know, it would be cool if he did. But I think this is one of those things where, you know, the fans, in some way are kind of to blame for this, right? So it's just like the fans that watch WWE all the time and complain, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong, but you keep watching. You keep giving them your $10 every month for the network. You know what I mean? You keep, and so therefore they don't care what you think or what you say, if you like or if you don't. They care that you pay. And you continue to pay, and you continue to give them their viewership so they can sell your number for advertising, right? Like, so you are giving them what they want. They don't care if you're getting what you want, right? And then so similarly, just like this, you know, us Impact fans, you know, we're complaining, oh, they're not elevating the homegrown guys, but we continue to watch. And those of us who are watching, you know, we might buy the pay-per-views and Impact Plus or whatever, but apparently we're not doing it at enough of a rate that this company can go to a higher level. So in some ways, you know, we're all to blame. You know what I mean? You know, who knows what's to come. But listen, if you ask me to bet money on it, I wouldn't expect Ethan Page to be an Impact, you know, past January, March.
You know, this is a point I want to make that because I don't want it to get misconstrued that first of all, you know, yeah, I have certain connections I talk to with the company from time to time. Contracts and stuff, I always tell people contracts, I'm not privy to that information. Money, deals. Hey, is this person still... Can I ask if this person is still signed? I can get kind of answers.
Can you get pizzills from the swingman?
No. No pizzills. But I'll tell you guys, I had a conversation with Allie one time after I had interviewed her. And you know, I never really talked about this before, but when she had her own YouTube channel, she touched on this a little. That's why I'm comfortable saying something now. But when I spoke to her, she was like, you know, with my first contract with Impact, like I had to have another job. I think she was a paralegal, I think she said. So she used to do that. She goes, my second contract, I didn't need the job. She's like, I kept it for a while just because I was used to it. And that was just my life. She's like, but things in Impact got really good and I didn't need it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to get misconstrued when we say, oh, well, they're going to be outbid by this guy because don't get misconstrued. We're saying the company doesn't have money. They don't have the money to pay people. They could pay Brock Lesnar if they wanted to, I'm sure. But again, it's how do you monetize it?
Right.
And this was something we were chatting about. We didn't even finish the conversation before we hit record. But first, I have to apologize. I know we bring up WWE EAW a lot. Some people don't like that. That's just the nature. You know, TW watches other companies. I watch some other companies. That is the nature of, you know, doing this podcasting sometimes, is that you're going to compare it to other things that you see, because there's some things that Impact does better and there's some that they don't, you know? So what I was telling him is that the merchandise game is something where Impact's pretty weak at.
Right.
There's improvement. Don't get me wrong. But when Chris Jericho came out with this, little bit of the bubbly, and it went viral that night, this dude had a shirt the next day.
Yeah, right.
When Britt Baker broke her nose, she had a shirt the next day, and it was the #1 selling shirt. Dude, I love Britt Baker, like love her. I wanted Impact to get her a long time ago, actually. I would never buy this shirt. You know, like I don't want a picture of Britt Baker with broken, but for some reason it was popular.
I love that picture. That was a good picture.
Yeah, I wouldn't wear it personally. My girlfriend loves Britt. She wears a role model shirt. So I'm trying to think of another example they have. Chris Jericho, I'm the demo god. Like there was a shirt the next day, and then I can't think of WWE examples. Right? Well, no, I can. Years ago, Heath, when he said I got kids, you know, like he had an I got kids shirt the next episode, and I think that I stopped watching after that. It was like the exact time frame I stopped watching. And if you look at Impact's merchandise, it's, you know, get the new Rascalz shirt, get the new Madison Rain shirt, the new whatever shirt. But they're just making shirts. They're just putting the logo that they think they should put. They're just trying to make cool merchandise is what they're doing. And I order their merch. Like I have stuff. I've been forgetting to show this real quick. Let me stand up. So Ross sent me these after Slammiversary. I meant to show these a long time ago, but I actually lost them. They somehow got mixed up in my office here. I couldn't find them. So I bought the package that was like $115 to do the, you know, all that good stuff. And we got, you know, autographed pictures. Like he actually wrote me a letter, like specifically saying, hey, you know, hope you like these. You can take down our Brian Stifler picture now. Cause remember I had like a Brian Stifler for the longest time here, just as a joke. Yeah. You know, but he took it upon himself to make sure I got two of my favorite wrestlers. So I got a, you know, autograph Eddie Edwards. And then he threw in Moose, actually, saying, I know he's your favorite guy right now. So that was really cool. Yeah. And thank God I finally found these. I was like, what did I do with them? They got filed away somehow. My kids come to the office here, my little one, I should say, and things get crazy. So I do buy merchandise. Mm-hmm. I do buy the shirts. I'm not saying they're bad shirts. Right. That's not what I'm saying at all, because I like the merchandise. But I don't see them ever really like capitalizing on something we see on TV. You know, like when Sami Callihan hit Eddie Edwards, like how did that not turn into something that you can monetize on a shirt? Right. Sammy did, like on his Pro Wrestling Tees, he did one, and we talked about it before, and Eddie had a.
You know, though, this kind of goes back to what I was saying last week about Impact doing. You know, one of the things that I think they do the worst at is marketing to fans that this is a fun, cool product that people like. They do a horrible job of that. I watched MLW the other night, and you know, my first thought was honestly yuck, right? Like I was like,
that shit.
I was like, I thought Impact looked bad, you know what I mean? But then the first time they went to like a commercial break, all you saw was fans. You know, you saw fans cheering, fans in the audience, you know, just clips of fans. So that was just a quick reminder. Hey, if this is your first time seeing this product, when we're back to having fans in, fans are here and fans love this. Impact never does that. They never do that. Right. And so that's a big thing, right? It's like just showing people, selling the idea that your product is something that people like. You know what I mean? Like that's just something that Impact just does not do a good job of it. And that comes with the t-shirts and all of that, right? Like they don't monetize enough. So like if the numbers are correct, right? Roughly 150,000 to 200,000 people per week are watching Impact on Access TV. Okay, you should be trying to monetize those 150,000 people. You know what I mean? If those 150,000 people were all subscribing to Impact Plus, right? Like that'd be a nice stream of revenue, right? More of a nice stream. Like the law of averages says what, they probably 10% or 30% of your viewing audience actually subscribes. You know what I mean? So you should be trying to get that up more. And if you remember when WWE was coming out with WWE Network, what they do, they beat you over the head with $9.99, $9.99, $9.99. You know what I mean? Like that repetitive messaging. So yeah, you know what I mean? And again, like AEW doesn't shy away from the fact that people call them a t-shirt company when they were first coming out, right? Like they beat you over the head with t-shirts. So that's just one thing. The Impact just they don't do a good job of monetizing. They don't. And so, like, yes, do they have the pockets where they could pay a Brock Lesnar or a John Cena or a Randy Orton? I'm sure they do. They just bought a damn TV network. They're not broke, right? But again, they don't have the infrastructure to properly monetize these people. They could monetize, they could have monetized Wrestle House a lot better because that got a lot of buzz when that came out, but that's just not what they do.
Even if they just put full episodes on YouTube, people.
I'm pretty sure Josh Matthews does every job behind the scenes. Like there's probably a few other, I'm sure there's other people, but like, I'm pretty sure Josh Matthews does like almost every job behind the scenes. And if not him, probably, somebody else, probably Johnny Bravo is the accountant, what I mean? Like, I don't know, but it feels like they're running that whole operation on a shoestring budget. And it doesn't make sense because Anthem is not a broke company.
I'm noticing improvements with Impact Plus right now. I did a whole, I guess you could call it a podcast where they hired the new guy. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ, I can't remember his name. I think Ant might have been his first name, Ant as in Anthony. So he used to work with UFC, and he was part of the UFC Fight Club. I think it's called UFC Fight Club or something like that. Their network. He took place in he worked with the Hall of Fame. And if you notice, the Hall of Fame, granted there was no people there, but the presentation of the Hall of Fame with Ken Shamrock this year. Mm-hmm. Was totally different than last time when we saw Abyss at the PF Chang's or whatever they were doing. You know what I mean? And then even the Impact Plus, there's a different feel about it.
Yes.
There's a different life.
And a lot of the production has gotten a lot slicker in like the last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah. But we talk about the merchandise. I made a tweet the other day. I say the other day, it was like 2 months ago. I retweeted an AEW graphic. This didn't go over well, but I was trying to make a point. It was the day of their pay-per-view, and they said to celebrate today's pay-per-view, everything's 35% off on our store today.
Right.
That's eye-catching, Mm-hmm. And I said, when is Impact going to do stuff like this? I think they did a sale recently, actually, which was good, and they're doing the pop-up store, so they're starting to do this a little bit. But someone was like, well, they put out Slammiversary shirts. I'm like, I'm not saying specific shirts for a pay-per-view because that's right. They're just putting out shirts. But how come it's for Slammiversary week, for Bound for Glory week, they're doing Impact week. How about for Impact week, you have a different sale every day or a different deal.
Right.
And I remember this is probably about 2013, 2014, watching Monday Night Raw. And every single Monday, they had a Shop WWE deal. Mm-hmm. Some of them were exactly the same, dude.
Right.
And I know this from like my marketing books, so I know they're exactly the same. But sometimes they'd be like, today's deal is everything's 15% off. The next week was free shipping, no matter what no minimum purchase. Right. And then the next week was $20 off. There was a lot of the same exact deal flipped different ways to where it just got people, let me see what I can get today. That sounds like a good deal. I read real interesting stuff like that when I read my marketing books and stuff like that. And I would just like to see a little bit more of that. Like every week, here's a reason to go to Shop Impact Plus in Shop Impact. Josh used to pitched the wrestle. What do they call those little? They made the Taya, Rhino, and
oh yeah, they had like little, not the Funko Pops, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of them.
They completely shit the bed with that, but
yeah,
like he used to just, make sure you go. Yeah, I'm glad you're kind of talking about what's on it, but there's just a better way to like get people from point A to point B than what they do. But there are improvements. Like God knows there's improvements. So I'm not completely shooting it down.
I was seeing growth before, the shutdown and people weren't able to come to stuff anymore. I can honestly say like I was seeing growth. And even if you go back and look at the pay-per-views, if you look at the pay-per-views from when did these guys take over, 2017 or was it 2018? Like if you just look at the pay-per-views over the course of the last, 3 years, there has been growth. Because listen, man, like, they burned this brand to the ground. And they literally have kind of started over, and there has been growth. Like I think the growth has been slow, but it's been there. And so, I give them credit for that, but it's just one of those things where really we, the fans, just have to accept that Impact is not like, Impact is even though this is a brand that's been around for what, 12, 13, 14 years, like this is still like, this is a new company. You know what I mean? Like this, this incarnation of the company, I think it is growing, but it's just growing at a snail's pace, and it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tough because a pretty new girl just walked into the room, and so, and she's popular. And so, you know what I mean? So, they're growing slowly, but again, I think this idea, if fans have any type of, fantasies about, Impact Wrestling becoming like the number 2 promotion, overtaking AEW, like get that out of your head, man. Impact is the stepping stone company, and we're going to talk more about that later, but Impact is what it is.
Whew. So after that whole discussion, a little long-winded, what was something that, that was my first kind of point there. We just took it somewhere else, to where I feel like Ethan Page, I don't like the vibe I'm getting right now from what they're doing on screen. Let me finish by saying this. I have a prediction who the phenomenal one is. I'm not going to take credit for this though. Lewis told me someone sent this to him on Facebook.
Okay.
This idea, and him and I talked about it, and we're like, dude, he's right. Our gut feeling is that it's going to be Swoggle. Swoggle looks like AJ right now, the hair, okay?
Oh.
Swoggle dressed up like AJ. Because you got to think the Good Brothers have a lot of comedy in with what they're doing right now.
Right.
So I think there is a strong possibility that's what we're going to see.
I don't doubt that one bit. I would co-sign that. I would probably believe it. And that actually is the perfect segue into one of my first takeaways from the show, which is that this whole phenomenal opponent thing, it just makes Impact look Bush League to me. It makes Impact look Bush League to me. This, when they, when Johnny Swinger said he was gonna wrestle a young buck, like, which turned out to be a very funny segment, by the way.
Yeah.
But I just thought, like, in my eyes, like, who are the young bucks that you need to be, teasing that they would somehow, shock the world by appearing on your show? I don't look at them like that, but apparently lots of people do. But I digress.
I don't either.
And so this is that again, right? And I thought the same thing when Willie Mack came out the pay-per-view dressed like Razor Ramon. I was like, God, this makes you look Bush League, man. It makes you look like you don't have your own thing, And I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like, it'd be like if we were sitting here like teasing that we were going to have the Solid Monster on the show next week. You know what I mean? It just would make us look whack. Like we're just really, like we don't have our own legs to stand on. And that's how I felt about this whole phenomenal opponent thing. Like we understand it's a joke, but nobody in their right minds thinks there's any chance that AJ Styles in any way appears for a match, against Ethan Page on next week's show. Like nobody thinks that at all. And I think that just by again, like just throwing that out there to try and create some eye-rolling buzz, I just think it's just, I don't know, like, shouldn't that be beneath you? You know what I mean? Like, should you be more than that? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I was not a fan of the whole phenomenal opponent thing. What else you got?
So my favorite tag team in the world, favorite women's tag team in the world, short-lived, Tenille Dashwood and Alicia Edwards. You know, if you've heard me talk last several weeks, these are my two favorite knockouts. Tenille was not for a long time, but there's the gimmick that I'm in love with. So this knockouts tag team match, I enjoyed the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We knew who was going to win, and we probably knew that Tenille was going to be doing her shenanigans
right
to the side, and she was. But here's a point I want to make, because I've been saying this probably more than I need to, because probably people don't maybe want to hear about Alicia as much as I talk about her. I've been saying this. I know I sound like a broken record, that she needed to be given something to do other than being Eddie's wife.
Right.
And if you think about it, she's been in the company for a while now, for years, but she has been, with the exception of the angle with Davey Richards and Angelina Love, she has been presented as a jobber, someone when they need a quick match. She's never had a competitive match on Impact programming. She's never had a competitive feud just that you can invest in. And people might be quick to say, I mean, I see it sometimes, like, oh, well, she's not as good a wrestler as the other ones. I'm like, you don't know that, because she's not presented in a way where she can go out there and compete. She goes out there and loses. She wrestled Deonna Purrazzo, got like 2 moves in, and I remember she wrestled Havoc months ago. She got no offense in whatsoever. And I remember something that stood out to me was that she started climbing to the top rope, and she started trying to get the fans interested, and they were sitting on their hands because they haven't had a reason to care about her. Like, you can't just be Eddie's wife all the time.
Yeah.
So with this match here, this was the best I've ever seen her look. And she wrestled a lot in this match. It wasn't just a couple moves here and there. This was the best she has looked. And why? Because this match meant something. She was wrestling for something. There were stakes. There was a completely different story being told in the ring with her than with any match we have ever seen her in this company. In the whole time she's been there, she has not wrestled this style of match.
Yeah.
When she was Jordan's tag team partner, they manufactured this, heat between them, which was stupid because they're on screen have been really good friends before. So
exactly.
That was really dumb. I will gladly say that I was 100% wrong in saying that I thought Tenille and Jordan were going to team up and go to the finals or win this thing. I'm so glad that I'm wrong with this. I'm so glad. And I feel like I'm either right or I'm wrong, and I'm usually not in between a whole lot, but I can definitely admit when I'm wrong, and I'm glad I am. But this just furthers my point. She looked really good in this match, whether it was against Havoc or Nevaeh, because she wrestled with a sense of purpose instead of going out there just to lose quickly, or to wrestle in some kind of comedy match, which she had been doing lately. So I got to give props, but I really enjoyed this match.
All right, that's good. One thing that stood out to me, another thing, my next thing from this episode that stood out is, who the hell is this silly ass looking cowboy that is following around Eric Young right now? I mean, like, this guy literally has his face like, and I'm like, yo, dude, like, yo, you're like a parody of like a 80s wrestler. And I mean, that was my first thought when I saw it. I was like, man, this is whack. I was like, somebody get James Storm out here to kick this guy in the face now. I have no idea what the plans are for this guy, but to me, there is nothing interesting about Joe Doring. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Joe Boring is more like it. Not seeing it, not feeling it. Next.
Lewis did a podcast on this guy, and he actually sent me a message on Facebook a little before we started podcasting. He swears by this guy.
Really?
And he makes a point. He says, you know what? He wrestles in All Japan or something like that. He makes a point that that they're signing a guy here who isn't, known on the United States, who isn't a former WWE guy or NXT guy. They basically have a clean slate with this dude. He's showing up.
Lewis just hates America. Okay, no,
yeah. damn Canadian. I know you ain't Canadian, but you live there. But they have a clean slate to work with this dude. So that's the difference.
Right.
Yeah. But it completely separates them from we thought something was going on with Sammy and Shamrock. That's not what we're getting. Doesn't appear to be that way anyway.
Yeah.
And it's, what's funny, dude? I could have put money on it that the Deaners were not going to retaliate this episode. After getting
you just take that ass whoop and go sit down.
Yeah, after getting their ass whooped this past Saturday at Turning Point on Impact Plus.
Well, but we saw them both get their ass whooped by Eric Young and do nothing about it.
Himself, by himself, did nothing.
Right. Exactly.
The next week they were planning a wedding, and then this week, butt whooped, nothing. Well, maybe there's gonna be a tag team match here. What's that?
So you know who to go see if you need lunch money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. That's crappy, man. Like, at least present these guys like they have some balls, and I think they're a pretty good team, but give them some balls on screen. Like, hey, we're gonna go avenge this beatdown. I mean, it's just two in a row at the hands of Eric Young, and they're just like.
I totally agree. And here's the thing too, is if you want people to like this, these can be. I'm a big fan of fun wrestling characters, right? But because there's fun people in real life, but everybody has a point where if you cross the line, you're going to see another side. And so we need to see that from the Deaners. Like, at some point, they got to get fed up with, taking the L's from Eric Young and him by himself and him with a friend, Crazy Joe. And at some point, we got to see another side of these guys. They got to be like, okay, no more fun-loving, beer-drinking, motivational speaking. We're here to fight. And so I think if they can bring that out, then there'll be something that'll be fun to watch. You know what I mean? Getting to see these guys have another gear, have some purpose, right? For wanting to fight and, kind of further a storyline here. But otherwise, if you're just going to keep taking whoopings and doing nothing about it, then why would we care?
Now, there's a possibility that they team up with Rich Swann against. No, because Swann is getting jumped by Sami Callihan,
right,
and Shamrock. So never mind. I'm getting Eric Young and Sami Callihan confused.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about, and we'll get into TW's final topic. The focus on the show was the Rascalz, and we've talked about this before. The Rascalz, no championships, no real momentum. Great matches, really good matches, really fun guys. Some people like the gimmick, some don't. But they were never a threat to win any gold. They presented them like, maybe this is. They never were, dude. And this episode, and even what they've been doing on social media lately, is so different than everything that they have ever done with a departing character. Right. First, I want to say I did find some humor in their treehouse stuff where they were like reminiscing on stuff that didn't really happen. And I don't know why I laughed so hard when Dez was just like, I'm still the tickle butt champion. No one's trying to take my crown or whatever, dude. That shit was so funny to me. But this episode was so different, and they handled this departure so different than anything we've ever seen before. So I had to think in my head, dude, why are they doing this? Why are they like this? And I came to a couple conclusions. And again, usually I'm spot on with stuff, or I'm really, really wrong. I'm very rarely in the middle, but I came up with a couple things here. Now, this match was emotional. Like these guys were crying genuine tears. This wasn't fake at all. I was sad watching it. Josh Matthews was even calling the match like, oh, and Dez with the step up insecurity, and I mean, he was so depressed watching this match. Him and Madison, dude, and it worked because there was no people there, so it was just so. Usually the presentation's pretty depressing as it is, man, but it worked in their favor this time. So I came to two conclusions. One was that they had this match, and maybe they had a loose angle to where, hey, you've been evicted, it's your last match. And I think because the match came out so emotional that they almost did like a backwards creative where they said, yo, we've got to build this a little bit and get people on social media interested in it, because we can't just have this, hey, you've been evicted, have your final match, and then these dudes are crying on TV and we're like, oh my God, there's no story here.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job with, it was over the top. Don't get me wrong, over the top as shit with the videos on Twitter and and everyone saying goodbye. Like, I thought it was really over the top, but it played its role because it did build up to this match being emotional. So I feel like they had an emotional match, and then it was like, whoa, before we put this on TV, we have to find a way to build up to it. But the one thing that I'm thinking too, man, is that when guys would leave Ring of Honor in the past, I used this example with you earlier when the War Machine left.
Right.
They were it was common knowledge they were going to NXT. They had their last match. These dudes are standing in the ring bowing. There's streamers. They get this beautiful send-off. Like, you guys are getting called up to the big leagues.
Right.
And then when someone leaves Impact for the same company to go wrestle in NXT, like Bobby Roode or something like that, EC3, it was like, oh, they can't keep anyone. I mean, it's always a negative when they lose someone. Yeah. And maybe we play into that a little bit too, but it's always a negative. No one's ever like, you said earlier, Impact's a stepping stone company. Ring of Honor is a stepping stone company. Someone leaving Ring of Honor, it's never been a negative. And with Impact, every time, dudes, oh, they can't. I mean, yes, we've said that too. They can't keep people because we want them to keep certain people. But there's always that narrative, man. They can't keep anyone. And I feel like, to, quote EC3, I feel like they were trying to control their narrative here. And they were creating a storyline like, hey, we're releasing the Rascalz. Their marketing's always been around guys who are no longer in the company. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they were going to take this opportunity to finally give these guys this huge push, huge promotional push, because now these guys are in the news. They're in the WWE and NXT news and the rumors and everything, and the news can go back around and it comes back towards them. And I think they're trying to make a very big deal about it. I think they went a little over the top for my taste, but I think that they're trying to control their narrative a little bit. Like, hey, someone can come here and move on and do bigger things, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a negative. I think they wanted to show emotion and impact emotion in the Rascalz, that they did like being here.
Yeah. And
it was difficult for them to leave. It wasn't like, when Bobby Roode and Eric Young left, I think Bobby Roode had said, like, he didn't even think twice about it. Like, he was just done one set of taping. And AJ, he's the most high profile. People were like, did you miss, TNA? And he's like, no, I didn't. Like, I didn't cry. I didn't, miss anyone. Like, I wrapped up there and I just moved on to do something bigger and better. Like, that's a bad look when you see stories like that. So I think they wanted to control the narrative a little bit, that, instead of making it look like it's bad, someone left, they had some fun with it. They try to make a positive out of it the best that they could. But I do think this was all by design. They had some kind of plan in place to do this. It wasn't organic. Like, they were controlling their narrative.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that point. And I think it's smart, honestly. I think it's smart for the exact reason that you pointed out. One of the things in terms of coverage that would always annoy me, right, is the way the headlines were always presented. For example, Zelina Vega got released by WWE, right? If the exact same thing happened, it would be Zelina Vega done with Impact Wrestling. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it's always presented, as in like, you know, this person has had enough of Impact and they're finished with Impact's crap and they're moving on to bigger and better things. And so I think that you know, again, going back to what I was saying before, you know, Impact is a stepping stone company. It is what it is. You know, like this is not the place where people are going to be you know, debuting and building a name and rising through the ranks like we saw with EC3, right? You know what I mean? Like this is not, they're just not in a mode where they're going to be doing that with people anymore, or right now, you know. And so yeah, you know what I mean? When they get it, when people get a chance, when they come to Impact, build up their brand and get a chance to go somewhere else and get paid, I think it's smart for Impact to create the illusion, control the narrative, and say, yes, this was a stepping stone company. Congratulations on completing your step and good luck in your future. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's such a smart thing to do because you, like you said, you control your narrative. You change the narrative of, oh, we want to wish the Rascalz luck going forward. Thank you guys so much. You were great. Rather than, you know, waiting for Mike Johnson to tweet out, you know, Rascalz done with Impact Wrestling. And now it's like, oh, will they pop up in NXT? You know, because anything's better than Impact, you know what I mean? And so, so now you've put that out there that they're leaving. You gave them as grand a send-off as we've ever seen. And excuse me, whatever happens next, it doesn't look bad on Impact. So I think they actually did a great job with this.
Absolutely, man. What else? What else you got from the show?
All right. My final takeaway from the show is that I loved this new vicious side that we are seeing from Moose. Oh my God, excuse me. So Moose had a match with Willie Mack, kicked Willie Mack's butt all around the ring, and the match had to end due to ref stoppage when, you know, Moose just kept giving him the elbows, just hammering his face, and they had to stop the match. Willie Mack's just laying there like he just got crucified in the excuse me, in the ring. It was great. And this is who Moose should have been all along. I've always, you know, just been a little off-put by the fact that Moose is big, powerful looking athlete, and he does so much, you know, cruiserweight style wrestling. It's great that you have the ability to do those things, but break them out once in a while and people go, wow. Do them too much, and I'm like, yo, why are you doing that? You know, why are you doing that? You're the biggest, you know, baddest dude out here. Why are you wrestling like you're TJP? It doesn't make sense. And so I love what I'm seeing from Moose right now. I think this is a main event character, what he's becoming right now. So this new vicious side of Moose, love it.
I love it too. I was really into it. You make a good point about, you know, I've always said make moves matter. When Hernandez had the match with Falaba, which I gave two shits about, when he jumped over the top rope, I was literally like, whoa. I've seen him do it before, but he doesn't do it every single match. You know what I mean? So I was like, man, like it meant something to me when he did it. Seeing this new side of him was really cool. It was just a great way to build into something with Rich Swann. Like Rich Swann's not acknowledging him yet. Rich Swann is dealing with something else, but Moose is laser focused on him. So I really see that. The only negative I have is that, and you know, I bring this up every single week in some way, shape, or form, but Willie Mack is laying there. He's half dead. Josh Matthews like, we need to get some help for Willie Mack. And instead of cutting to a commercial to play off the drama a little bit, it cuts immediately to Josh standing in front of the backdrop. Dun-dun, dun-dun. I mean, dude, that I know some people don't give a shit about that. I know that they don't, but you know,
but it's not a good segue.
You work in television, dude, like that.
Right.
Those little details, man, is the difference between something feeling like really important and something feeling like just a segment, you know, and then you're just moving on from it. Like when you got this guy half dead in the ring, we need to get this guy some help. Right. You're wondering if some EMTs are going to come out. No, it's dun. Man, Drives me crazy.
Yeah, now it totally matters how you go from one segment to the next. I just finished watching Power. I don't know if any of you guys are fans of the show Power, but when the show first started, in the first, I want to say 3 or 4 episodes, the way it was edited was annoying me so bad. Like when they would want to get out of a scene and go to the next scene, they would do these fade to black from one scene to the next, and it looked like an amateur filmmaker.
Right.
And
yeah,
this is one of those things where if you don't have like an eye for production, you probably would never notice, but I just couldn't unsee it. And it's like it was so annoying to me. But that's exactly like what you're talking about with the, you go from Willie Mack, like, oh my God, is he gonna be okay? Coming up next on the show,
the shit-eating grin, standing in front of it. Yeah. So I think I brought this example before. You have to be older to remember primetime wrestling, which was before Monday Night Raw ever existed. It was Monday, and when you were watching primetime, you were just watching a 2-hour wrestling show. That in between matches, Bobby the Brain and Gorilla and Hacksaw or Hillbilly Jim or Mr. Perfect, they had a little studio setting and they used to talk and it was funny. And then, all right, let's go to the ringside for Skinner and Kim Chi versus Kamala and, in a handicap match. You just knew it was a bullshit match.
Right.
You knew that the show was more just the talking and, they would promote some stuff, but you were just watching wrestling. So that's why the editing matters, because it reminds me of that kind of stuff. I remember I hated with passion when Josh and what's his name that's in WWE now as a producer.
Jeremy Borash.
No, Sanjay. When they
were
pronouncing doing for a little bit, and they were standing in front of a green screen. It reminded me of the primetime stuff where it's like we're just watching a 2-hour show of wrestling where the matches matter. That's why the editing kind of, you have to play off the drama, so stuff does feel like it matters. Otherwise, you're just watching segments of some people talking, and now let's go to ringside and watch a bullshit match.
Yeah.
So, just it has to tie in a little bit more.
Yeah. All right, you want to get to some questions from the comments?
Yeah, man.
Because we told you guys we were going to bring you into the show this week, and you guys responded. You dropped your comments underneath the video of the show, and like I said, we want to make you guys a part of the show. So you want me to throw some comments to you?
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. The King commented, "I've seen that Sienna is a free agent again. Not sure when Impact are doing their next set of tapings, but do you think there's a chance she'll return? She's been wrestling on AEW, so it probably is not very likely. Thanks for the shout out. I really like the work you guys do."
All right, so I'll touch on it here, and then you could follow up. There's zero chance that she's going to show up in Impact. I got a good relationship with her. I'm not saying we're best friends. I joke that we're best friends. I've said that when I was interviewing her. I have a pretty good relationship with her. So I'm always very, very careful in the light that I like. When she was having a drama with Tessa Blanchard, I got on YouTube. I was like, I'm not going to comment on this because I have a friendship with her. You could say, for lack of better terms. So I was like, I'm not comfortable talking about it. So
sure.
I'm always really uncomfortable with how you're talking about her for those reasons. But I think there's 0% chance she comes back with everything that happened with Tessa. Also, I think it would be a step. I hate to say this because it sounds really negative, but it would be a step backwards for her at this point. She really built up her Sienna character, and then her NWA work was really good. And then but before that, she did the Mae Young Classic. She's making her rounds, and then her match with Serena Deeb on AEW was really good, and she felt like something the women's division really needs over there. I feel like she just a matter of time before they sign her there.
Yeah,
I know sometimes we like to see people return to the company, but I don't think she would have any interest. I just feel like that's a step back for her. at this point in her career. Not the Impact's a step back, but just for her character, like she's on an upwards trajectory to like kind of go back to where she started.
Yeah,
doesn't make sense for me.
Well, I mean, listen, that goes along with what I was saying before. Listen, Impact is at this point a stepping stone company, and she's already taken that step. So, keep going forward, go onwards. You know what I mean? That makes sense to me. It does feel like it'll be a step back for her, but in terms of the construction of the women's division, I think she would actually fit in right near the top if she were to come back to Impact now. But again, this is the problem: is I'm fantasizing about all these great wrestling matches that could happen between the current roster of knockouts, but Impact just doesn't really. That's just not the way they present the knockouts division. You know what I mean? Like Deonna Purrazzo is here to have great matches, and other than that, other than her, I don't know. Everyone else is just kind of presented within the context of their character. Their matches are all presented within the context of their character. And so it's more character based as opposed to, big wrestling based. But let's get back to Sienna. You know what I mean? I am a big fan of Sienna. Her bad bitch energy is just through the roof. I love it. I love it so much. And yeah, man, like she just, you know what I mean? Like I'm a big fan of her character. Like I said, I love her attitude, her sass, all that, man. I'm a big fan of it. And yeah, I mean, I definitely welcome to see her on Impact if she wanted to be on Impact. But like BQ said, I don't know. I think she's just kind of, she's ready for a bigger stage. You know what I mean? She's ready for a bigger stage. And so I wouldn't wish an empty or studio wrestling career on her. Okay, I wouldn't wish that on her. So I don't expect to see Sienna back anytime soon.
No.
All right. Next, coming from City Praise. TW, I want the North versus FTR. Great show, guys. So this is all in reference to the question I asked last week. I said, hey guys, if you're looking at the potential of Impact having working relationships with like AEW and New Japan, what type of matchups or storylines would you be looking to see? And so that's, this is in reference to that. The North versus FTR, yeah, that seems like that'd be good. I don't know how much longer the North are to be together. If Ethan Page is going to, move on, I could see them getting a nice run out of Josh Alexander. I think it'd be cool to see him get some character development, and he certainly has the tools to just be that Ken Shamrock, Kurt Angle style killer in the ring. So I don't know how much longer the North are going to be together. I don't expect Josh, it's not Josh Allen, Josh Alexander. I don't expect Josh Alexander to leave when Ethan Page leaves.
You're right.
I think Josh Alexander will get his own run once Ethan Page goes off to seek his fortunes elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think his run as a singles guy, he has the tools. I said when they signed him, he was a real blue chipper. I just didn't know how they were going to present this guy on screen with wrestling, his gear. But they've nailed it, and the crappy thing is that now the Impact seems like they have some dialogue with AEW and could make FTR in the North happen. Who kind of cares now? Because the North is not anything. The North is at an all-time. Their stock is at its lowest right now, as far as in Impact from start to now. And I'm not saying anything negative about them. Like I like the North. I just mean when they debuted, they had all these tandem moves, and they were just like, whew, what a great team. And then they had this long run. Like right now, their stock is just low. So I don't even know. I just have a hard time seeing it happen as a Impact versus AEW match. I feel like it would be a match on the indies. I don't really know. So this just goes to show that the tag teams, the North had a shelf life, and I don't know that I can't see them continuing as a team any further because they only put their stock into like 3 teams, the company. Like if you're not the Motor City Machine Guns, the Good Brothers, or the North, like you're just there.
Yeah. And that actually kind of would lead me into the next question, which was or the comment rather, which was Aaron Comer says, I'm sorry, that's not Aaron Comer. This was Tardelli04 says they would like to see a talent exchange happen, preferably with the Gorillas of Destiny debuting on Impact. And I think that goes back to what you were just saying, which is, yeah, that would be cool. But, Impact doesn't do enough with the tag teams that they have, Yeah. So if you bring in the Gorillas of Destiny, it's like, okay, cool. What are you going to do? Feud with the Deaners? You're going to feud with Triple XL? I mean, like, yes, you could work with them, with those teams, because those are good teams. They're good wrestlers. But it's not like they've built these teams up, these brands, to be a big match, some dream match against the Gorillas of Destiny. You know what I mean? The fans who watch Impact every week barely have any type of connection to these teams. So Impact has to do a better job promoting the teams they have before you start, bringing in teams for dream matches.
Yeah. If you think of the AEW's tag team division, it doesn't matter who they put against each other. It just feels, I don't really like their tag team wrestling, but it still feels like a big match, because even like the Butcher and Blade, they always lose. That's my favorite team. The Blade is Braxton Sutter, if you don't know. They always lose, always. I don't think I've ever seen them win, but they're still involved in storylines that mean something. They're engaging storylines. So when they do wrestle, it doesn't feel like just a nobody team against a nobody team is wrestling. Everyone feels like they have a place there. So we're not going to see, I don't think we're going to see those kind of people come in until, again, the Triple XLs and the Deaners mean something. They're not part of, funny angles.
Yeah. Okay. Aaron Comer says, can you do a year-end management review for Impact Management? I actually really like that idea. I like that idea. Maybe we take a look at all the, some of the big decisions. We can look at, where things started. What's that meme? How it started versus how it's going.
Right.
We can kind of look at that. I kind of like that idea. I think it's a little bit unfair, given COVID has, stripped the company of the ability to, travel and draw crowds. Some of those things might be a little unfair, but I actually really like that idea. That's something we might actually flesh out.
Yeah, that would be fun to do. With the understanding that people know that we're not fit to run Impact Wrestling. This is strictly as a couple podcasters, Monday morning quarterbacking. And, it doesn't mean that we don't have genuine ideas that make sense. I mean, Stephen A. Smith never played in the NBA, but still people know what he says about the NBA. We talk about basketball. So, there is that narrative in wrestling where if you weren't a wrestler, you weren't in the ring, you weren't in the business, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But we always say before, like, I know a little bit of business, I know marketing, television. Like we have skills that help us to form our opinions. We're
not sitting here telling you how to take a neck breaker. You know what I mean? Like, right? Yes, we never took a bump. Fine, okay. I'm not trying to tell you how to take a bump, but as somebody who watches TV and makes TV, I can tell you some stuff about that. So let me live.
Exactly. There we go. I like that.
All right. So G says, "Hi, watching, listening from Wales. I think Impact commentary just needs to switch it up from time to time. Maybe rotate Callis, Rain, and Striker. The partnerships seem to get stale fairly quickly since Pope left. My favorite commentary as a wrestling fan is Gorilla and Brain."
I would agree with that. I think that's the best to ever do it. I notice with Josh Matthews, his vocabulary and everything is. So before I knock him, I'll knock myself. My vocabulary is limited. That's why over the years since I've started this, you have seen me bring in different podcasters or different, I started doing with Will, and then Kyle came on, and then then I had Ro and Adam, and then the TNI guys, and now Lewis is here and TW is here. Like, I've always brought in different voices because there's only so much I can say, and there's only so much I can communicate to you. You're going to hear the same things over and over. I do repeat myself a lot, but I do that because there's always new listeners. That's the reason. But there's only so much I can say to you, and that you have to hear a different voice sometimes. Otherwise, you're going to tune me out. sports teams, sometimes they fire their coach because the players have tuned them out. It doesn't matter if they're good, bad, whatever. It's just this now. It's Charlie Brown's teacher. So I don't hear anything from Josh Matthews from week to week that I haven't heard before. I'm not saying I could step in and do what he does because I think he's good. I've never said he was, like the worst. Some people are like he's the worst commentator in the world. I'll point out when I think he's doing bad work, but I couldn't do what he does. God, no.
Right.
But I've heard everything he has to say.
It's hard as hell. Like doing play-by-play, like doing color, like I've done like color commentary for football games, and doing color commentary it's not easy, but it's easier than doing play-by-play. Like play-by-play, it's a skill. It is a specific skill to keep up with the action, call it, and keep it interesting. That's not an easy thing to do.
But he brought up it being stale. Like my point is, I've heard everything Josh Matthews has to say. There is nothing that if I turn on the show next week, he's not going to say anything that I haven't heard him say on another episode. Madison Rain, however, like I think I like her better than the average person. I'm very entertained with her on commentary.
Right.
I don't have nothing bad to say about her. I think she's genuinely funny. Some people don't find her funny. I just do. We all have different humor. Matt Stryker did Bound for Glory, the pre-show. Breath of fresh air. I mean, it was so nice hearing something different. I don't ever want to hear Don Callis ever, but when he did AEW, he sounded really good there. Like if we got that, I would be perfectly okay with him on Impact, but that's not what we get from him, and that's my issue. Someone had left a comment. This was probably 2 months ago. I don't know if he wrote me on Facebook or it was a YouTube. I think it was a YouTube comment saying that it might have been What Culture or one of these big channels that had asked, what is your reason for not watching Impact? And this listener told me it was alarming how many people in the comments had said they don't watch because they don't like Josh Matthews.
Wow.
And it wasn't, the message wasn't to knock Josh. It was just like, wow, this was alarming. Like it was really taken aback by how many people are like, we just don't like him.
But I gotta say, I feel like that's similar to the people that tweet that they're not watching the NBA because the NBA is too political. Those people don't watch the damn NBA no matter what. You know what I mean? They just are looking for something to say. I think the people who say they don't watch, a good majority of the people who say that they're not watching Impact because of Josh Matthews, they're not watching Impact anyway.
Regardless,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Not liking Josh Matthews is just a side fact. It's just the dipping sauce to your hate nuggets. You know what I mean?
But we're actually really fortunate to have Josh Matthews as a part of the company because he's dedicated to this company. Like Josh Matthews is never going to be like, hey, WWE, like when Jeremy Borash freaking took off, like Josh Matthews is never going to do that.
Right.
I know he's not, so he's a loyal dude. I think he should stay with the company. He obviously does a lot behind the scenes, but the more you do, the more watered down each of those areas become. That's human nature. It's not him. It's just anybody. The more tasks you give someone, the less effective they're going to be in them. That's just the way that it is. I feel like I'm a better parent when my girlfriend's home than when I was a single dad for a long time.
Right.
Because I have that help and it allows me to take a breath sometimes. And, but they need to switch it up, man. It's always going to feel the same until we just get a different soundtrack. Like you can, I kind of want to use the term like you can polish a turd, but it's always like, I don't want to say that because it's not a turd, but my point is like, you can fix all these other areas, but if the essence of the show is just the same voice every single time, it's not going to feel that different. Like sometimes you just got to do something, do something different.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to kind of push through this next one a little bit. So Critical Sting has given us a list of potential dream matches he would like to see. So I'm going to read you each one and you just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down on if you think that's a match you'd like to see or or maybe not. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one, cross promotional matches, I'd like to see Callahan versus Moxley.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Chris Bay versus Phoenix or Ishimori.
I'll say thumbs up. I feel like that's not the kind of wrestling I like, but it would be good.
Ace Austin versus Sammy Guevara or Darby Allin.
Yeah, because I like all those guys.
Yeah, me too. Ace Austin's good. He's a little underrated.
Yeah,
you want to talk about a guy that Impact should be pushing more in terms of like, I think he might be ready for that big push. Especially while no, they're gonna wait till he's got 4 months left on his contract. Then
yeah.
Anyway, Moose versus Brody Lee.
Yeah, I think in theory we once watched Moose versus Luchasaurus on Impact Plus, and that match was so bad.
Was it?
So in theory, yes, but I don't want it to be like that.
And Rich Swann versus Pac.
Yeah, hell yeah. Those are all great.
That would be a good one. Rich Swann, listen, I'm not gonna lie. I it's been tough for me to cheer Rich Swann, just like domestic issues are a trigger for me. And the stuff is out there. You guys can look it up on your own. No need for me to rehash it. But as a wrestler, man, like he puts on some bangers. He consistently puts on some bangers just in terms of matches. And, it is what it is. You can just go look up, his pay-per-view matches and his even, on episodes of Impact, his matches have just been outstanding. Like he's one of the best performers there is. And I was at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando when Pac and Austin Aries had an incredible match. It was on the pre-show. And it was so good. It was just so good. So like, and then you look at what Pac's done since he came to AEW, totally reinvented himself. And he's, just this dastardly character now. And yeah, man, I'm a big fan. I think there's no way that could miss. There'd have to be some sort of injury in order for that not to be a great match.
The one thing I want to say about Rich Swann real quick is that right now he feels like a mid-carder with the title to me.
Totally agree.
I just I don't know. There's something that's missing a little bit for me.
And I want to give you credit too, because this goes back to what you were saying in the lead up to Bound for Glory. You were like, if he becomes the champion, is he gonna keep dancing and like doing all that stuff? Because you're like, in so many words, you were saying that's not like what a world champion looks like. And I was like, no, he can still do his thing. But sure enough, he's got the title and he's still doing all that, mid-cardy, stuff. And it's just not hitting like a champion. It's not, right. You know what I mean? It's just not.
I think that's my point. The way the show went off the air with Sammy and dude, I that got an A+ for me. That with the way they attacked the Rascalz and I don't care, it's your last day and threw the trash can and him and Shamrock, dude. That segment got such an A+ for me. Like that's some right. Heel building shit.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, really good, man. I do like that Swann kind of added this kick to the back of the head to his arsenal. I think that's going to help him a little bit too. But, and you remember we did say, hey, show up at Bound for Glory in the best shape of your life. And he did.
Yep.
I couldn't believe I was like, oh shit, he did. But, I would have switched the music. I would have switched his presentation.
Yeah, totally
agree. He didn't come out totally dancing at Bound for Glory. He just kind of like did it a little bit like, hey, this is what I do, but I'm serious. So,
right.
But it's a little mid-cardy to me so far.
Totally agree. I can't argue with that. All right, and here's our last question for the day. This is from N Baldwin 45. Shout outs from the UK, guys. Big fan of the Cool Factor. How about an edition comparing today's Impact with one from a year ago in terms of angles, roster, match quality, etc.? With the Rascalz, the latest to go, it's amazing how different the scenery is. Maybe even compare it with TNA 10 years ago during the Dixie days. I loved the product back then, went away for a few years, and when I got back, the only guy I recognized was Eddie Edwards.
Wow, that's a great idea.
That's a really good idea, and I'm not gonna lie, Nick Baldwin, we're probably gonna steal that idea, or whoever in Baldwin 45.
Yeah, to compare it to just on this date in history, this is what Impact looked like.
That's a great idea. I probably shouldn't have read the question, but then we would have just did the idea and in Baldwin 45 would be like, "You're stealing my shit."
I love that. I would say, if you had to break Impact up, let's just say in 4 eras is kind of a lot because that's a lot of wrestling to watch. But I would compare now to the Impact Zone TNA days, that like, right, maybe Destination America to Pop TV era, and then maybe like the Hogan era, and then before that, like, I think that's like 4.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's a lot.
It's doable. It takes a little bit of research, but it's totally doable. Solid Monster does a segment on his podcast. It's like This Week in Wrestling, and he'll he'll just pull up like famous dates in wrestling history from a few years back to many years back, in which something within the course of the week kind of happened within that like that calendar year. It's a pretty good segment. So and it allows you to touch on all types of events. I think it's actually a pretty good idea. If we have time to do the research, I think we'll definitely try this segment.
Yeah, it's not going to be a monthly or weekly thing, but we could do some of them, or it could be like a segment in the Cool Factor. We could see, but what I want to avoid, I've told you this before, I don't want to turn into an Impact flashback show.
Right, like the flashbacks that you hate so much.
Right, I despise them. I like this one because it was a knockout. It just made sense, and I like real knockout stuff. But for the most part, 99% of the time I can't stand them. So I don't want to do that because I don't want to highlight when the company was in a better place. So I think doing a year ago or 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe seeing where, I would say like the Destination America days until now, seeing the growth from then till now, it's probably a nice little, that way we can keep it largely positive.
Right. No, it's a nice way to frame it. And I think you're totally right. I think that if you make your scope too big, then it forces you to because look, man, like, 2013 was the top of the mountain. And then from there, 2014 was the apex, and it was all downhill, man. It was all downhill. I don't know that date. I think it was in 2014. I think it was in June of 2014 when the tweet came out that Spike TV was canceling Impact Wrestling. That was it, man. That was it. And it was a steady decline to that point. But but everything up to AJ Styles defeating Bully Ray in the main event of Bound for Glory was the first life of TNA. And everything after that is like, this is like AD, TNA. And this era that, and then even if you were going to put TNA into eras, this is kind of like, this question is spiraled. Or what's the word you use? Dog trailed.
Rabbit trail.
Rabbit trail. Yeah. but so actually, now that I think about it, TNA kind of this is like, I would say like the third act of TNA's life, right? There's like the initial build, from its inception up to 2013. And like I said, the peak of that is AJ defeating Bully Ray at the biggest house that TNA has ever had. I looked it up. That Bound for Glory was the largest audience that TNA ever drew.
The 8,000 or something?
Something like that. And from there, it was just all, so from there, then the decline going to, the cancellation from Spike, which also marked the end of Spike's money involvement in Impact Wrestling, and that really cut the legs out like you wouldn't believe, and that led us into the whole era of, Dixie swindling people to keep the show on the air and bouncing it from network to network. And then, eventually we got to where we are now, the Anthem era, which I would argue is slowly trending upward. So, we're in the third act of this thing. You know what I mean? We're in the third act of this thing. And unfortunately, that era in the middle it's been tough to shake. But here's the thing that I think is important and worth remembering. There are fans now who only were here for the tail end of that middle era and this current era where it's on an upswing, an uptick. And I think that's important to remember. Is like, we often think of this product in terms of what I consider to be the most damaged brand name in the history of entertainment, TNA. And we can't shake that, right? It's almost like you have to defend your fandom of it because of that because all of the slander that TNA has incurred. But you said this a few weeks ago when we were talking about something, like there's fans now who have no recollection of the LOL TNA days. You know what I mean? There's fans now who weren't here for any of that. And so it's important, like when you're talking about this product, like, yeah, like don't hide from the past, but also like don't live in it, and recognize where you are now. Like this is a product. Again, look at it from when Callis and D'Amore first took over to right before whatever the last pay-per-view was before the pandemic hit. You know what I mean? Like you'll see growth. You'll see growth because there was growth. And so I think it's cool to look back on the past. But I think it's important, again, if you're an Impact fan, I talked a lot about not getting your hopes up that this is going to be something that it's not, but it's also like, yo, this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is like, again, compare this to 2016. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you actually pointed this out. They couldn't make it through 2016 through 2 sets of tapings with the same creative staff.
You're right.
Like that was wild.
Yeah.
They had me on the fence. I was almost like, I'm done with this. I just can't. I can't keep defending my fandom of this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they had me on the ropes there for a minute. And so, yes, to get back to the original question, if we have the time, I would love to do some stuff where we look back on, this day in Impact history. But the history is just not as, it's complicated.
I don't want it to be Impact flashback. Like I would say, if anything, comparing one episode from the this day of history of the Dixie era till now, mm-hmm. or the beginning of the Anthem era till where we're at now. Like something like that. The only time I've ever been on the fence was when Jeff Jarrett came back.
Right.
I was really into it for the first like couple sets of tapings, and then I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. Like it was really bad.
Yeah. And then for me, what was getting me was all the cronyism, all the people he was bringing in. And I was just like, yo, these people are strictly here to get a check. And I'm like, and they're just making this whole thing look so bad. Oh, and the green ropes. Oh God, the green ropes.
What's funny is the green ropes looked really clean in the JFW Amped, but they put the green on black, and Impact put green on blue, I think, or something. It didn't look good. It looked really bad. I was there in person for the very first episode. That's why I like Reno Scum so much, because they were in the opening match.
Yeah,
and that was my first time knowing about them, and I connected with them. Diamante wrestled as Angel Rose that episode. What's her name? Ava Story with that booty. She was there. So she, I mean, they, Yeah, I remember that like very vividly, and I was excited, and then it got really bad. I remember they name dropped WWE like four times that episode, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, when I got on Twitter, I was like, yo, I don't know if this is getting edited out or not, but WWE got name dropped about 4 times this episode. Prepare for it, and it was all in there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god.
Yeah.
But
this but thank you everybody for the questions. Keep sending the questions in. We're gonna make this question and answer segment a regular part of the show. I think this was a lot of fun. Did you like doing the question and answers? BQ?
Yeah, dude, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. And you guys can definitely, again, thank you so much for sending in the questions. We love your input. We love that you guys are listening. We love, getting your feedback. And again, tell a friend to tell a friend. You know what I mean? Tell somebody to watch the show. Tell them you got a shout out. You know what I mean? Let's grow this audience. Let's keep more people into the conversation.
Hells yeah. So that'll wrap it up for myself and TW. Hope you enjoyed another episode of The Cool Factor. And yeah, we really like that idea. So we'll see if we can tighten it up and come up with a format for that. But for tonight, that will do it for us. And we will talk to you guys soon. Peace.